love where I live. Hi, I'm Dylan. I'm playing tag on my roof. Can you believe it? I'm almost as high up as the skyscrapers. Playing on the roof is one of the best parts of living here. Let's go downstairs. I'm going to show you something amazing. As you read, think about the different kinds of places where people can live. Boys and girls, pause the video while you write your first name, your last name, and your date on your Scholastic News. The Dinosaur on My Street by Dylan. Today was the best day. My mom took my sister and me to the museum. We left our apartment. We rode the elevator downstairs. It was nice out, so we walked to the museum. First, we passed a man playing a guitar. People were clapping and singing along. I put a quarter in his guitar case. We walked by a big pile of trash bags. It smelled so gross. Then we passed a pizza place. The smell of the melted cheese and hot tomato sauce was delicious. We stopped for a slice. Finally, we got to the museum. I went to see the T-Rex skeleton. It's huge! That's one of the reasons I love living here. I live down the street from a dinosaur. It started raining, so we took the subway home. We waited in the crowded station. Screech! A train pulled up, and we got on. We zoomed home. That night, I lay in bed and looked out the window. I saw the bright lights of all the buildings around us. Then a bunch of cars started honking. I love it here, but sometimes I wish it weren't so loud. Where does Dylan live? Look at the photos. Put a check mark on Dylan's community. A community is a place where people live and work. City, also called an urban community. Tall buildings close together. A lot of people. Suburb, also called a suburban community. Houses near each other on a street, not as crowded as a city. Country, also called a rural community. Houses far from one another, big fields and open spaces. So boys and girls, put a check next to which one is Dylan's. We saw a man playing a guitar. We smelled yummy pizza. We saw a T-Rex skeleton. We took the subway home.
Dance break!
Move like community workers. Lift up the garbage can. mail truck. Put food on the shelves. Now it's back to say, thank you, community workers. Let's dance one more time. Move up community workers. Lift up the garbage can. Drive the mail truck. Put food on the shelves. Now it's back to say, thank you, community workers.
Freeze! Now take a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3. Let it out. 3, 2, 1. Now, look to the ground.
Name my community. Read the riddles below. In which kind of community does each child live? Number 1. I live in a house with fields around it. My neighbors live really far away. We see more cows than cars out here. What kind of community do I live in? The city, the suburb, or the country? So boys and girls, go back to the middle of your scholastic news and let's see, does that child live in the city or urban community with tall buildings close together and lots of people? A suburban community, houses near each other on a street but not quite as crowded as a city? Or in the country or rural community, houses far away from each other, big open fields and open spaces. So which kind of community is this one with neighbors really far away, a house with fields around it, and more cows than cars? City, suburb, or country? Number 2. I live in an apartment in a tall building. Many other tall buildings are nearby. I take a train that goes underground. What kind of community do I live in? City, suburb, or country? Again, boys and girls, refer back to what city, suburb, and country are in the middle of your scholastic news. Or you can use the rewind button to see how I read them. Number 3. I live in a house on a street with a lot of other houses. I play with my friends in my backyard. We ride our bikes on the sidewalks. What kind of community do I live in? A city, a suburb, or the country? Bonus, which is another name for a challenge, still needs to be filled in. Fill in the blanks. I live in blank. Do you live in a city community, a suburb community, or a country community? Write it on this line. For fun, I like to, and then write what you like to do for fun. Then draw a picture in this box of something I can see out my window. When you're done, put it in the finished work bin.
Home in 3 communities. Where do you live? Do you live on a farm with lots of land? Or in an apartment building that stretches into the sky? Do you ride your bike to get around? Or do you hop on a subway train? The places where we live, work, and play are our communities. In our country, there are three main kinds of communities. They are urban, suburban, and rural communities. Let's go on a trip to learn about these three kinds of places. We'll start in an urban community. This community is also called a city. Cities are busy and loud. People crowd into subway trains and buses to get around. Lots of people live and work in tall buildings. People live close together. Their neighbor might live right across the hall. Most people don't have backyards, but it's still easy to see trees, grass, and flowers. Just head to the city park. Urban communities have big parks that everyone in the city shares. Now let's drive out of the city. We're in a suburban community. It is also called the suburbs. There is a lot more room out here than in the city. Here, you may see many houses with their own backyards. Your neighbor might live next door or just down the block. Sometimes you can wave to your neighbor from your yard. People drive cars or ride bikes to get around. Let's take one more trip. We'll go out to the country. This is also called a rural community. This community is the quietest, and it has the most space. You may see more land than houses in this community. Some people in rural communities live and work on farms. There is lots of room to grow food and let animals run around. Houses are far apart. If you want to visit your neighbor, you might have to get in a car and go for a drive. What kind of community do you live in? Urban, suburban, or rural? To answer this question, take a look around. You'll learn a lot about the place you call home. What kind of community do you live in? Talk about it. See you soon.